Welcome to the HU Move Makers podcast, where we highlight folks that are blazing the trail and making moves in Howard culture. Welcome to the HU Move Maker podcast, where we highlight folks in Howard culture that are blazing the trail and making moves. Today, we got a special guest on the program. I love black people, black startup. We got a brother that went to Howard School of Engineering, came from Tuskegee, then transferred to Howard. This man's an activist, Bitcoin, blockchain, used to own Georgia Avenue Cleaners. A lot to talk about and unpackage with this man, but right now he's dedicating his life to eliminating racism and xenophobia, so that we can have this spread love throughout the black diaspora. But without further ado, I want to welcome to the show brother Sinclair Skinner. Thank you for coming on.
Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate everything you're doing to keep us connected and elevating the capstone of higher education by, highlighting the work that all of us are doing all over the world, brother. So thank you, man. Here's to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, no question, man. So you got a lot that you've done in your life, man. You School of Engineering. I see that you're heavy into the politics, entrepreneurship. Now we come full circle where we in tech. You got a startup that you've launched, a global startup, and it's pretty ambitious. Why don't you let's start there, man. What is this I love black people? What is that about?
Well, look, thinking about Howard alum, look, we're not as ambitious as Kamala Harris. Go Kamala, woo, go Bison. Take that. That's what we do. Yeah, so that's what we just trying to keep up with other Bison, man, making moves. We think that enough's enough. Like, it didn't take George Floyd to have somebody a knee on his neck. We've been having his knee on our neck, our head, our eye, our chest. We said, look, we need to come up with our own ways of solving our problems with racism and xenophobia. White supremacist ideology is not going to go away by itself. While it's here, we need to make sure that we protect ourselves from these racist institutions. So we're developing ways of doing that, utilizing technology, and we're using the model from the Green Book. That is something that's been proven, that was done in the 1930s and 1960s to give black people safe passage as they were traveling doing Jim Crow segregation. We're still facing white supremacist ideology. We said we need a digital version that actually protects us, throughout the world. And instead of just focusing on food, transportation, and accommodation like the original Green Book, we expanded it to 8 categories: health, legal services, education / childcare, beauty, finance, as well as those other categories. So, we want to make sure that holistically we're able to make a difference for ourselves, and we're not waiting for somebody to come save us, even though Kamala would do a great job.
So how long has this startup been in existence?
Well, we started off in 2015 where we just were doing like financial transactions, and we did our pivot to creating this global guide. We really started that about a year and a half ago, probably around January 2019. And we've been like building on this ever since. We have, people that are members, are part of this movement from, all over the world. We've got like chapters in Africa. And the way we saw it was that at first, as a startup, we just thought people would want to just, use the service. But we realized that people wanted to be a part of an overall movement. There was people who wanted to help us build it. So right now we're in our betas. We're like in our testing phase, but we're going to launch September 30th. So we have about 40,000 people that have signed up as members and ambassadors. And those folks are the ones who've been helping us build out the platform. And when I say build it out, we're literally a guide to these safe spaces and we get these safe spaces from recommendations of Black folks throughout the world. So if you get sick, and it's going to be hard to Google a non-racist doctor in Copenhagen if you're in Denmark. But you go to I Love Black People, there's a Mongolian woman doctor maybe that all the Black folks love and say she treats us with dignity and respect. So if you're sick in Denmark, you're good. Or I think there was a rapper that got something happened to him in Sweden or something. Like, we could be anywhere in the world. We need to make sure that our people are safe and protected. So this thing's about making sure that 1.5 billion people in the world that are of African descent make sure that they have the tools that they need in order to be safe from racism and xenophobia, because the consequences can be deadly. Like Brother George Floyd, he pulled out a $20 bill and got accused of being a counterfeit bill. Now, that's not how that thing had to go down, but because he was in the wrong place there with the wrong folks, they called the police. Look, I've been drunk. I've been at bars and restaurants, drank too much. They didn't call the police, they called a cab or Uber. You know, that's what you want. You want to be somewhere where they respect your dignity. And again, I tell people, racism is probably harder to see when things are going super swell. It's when things get a little tricky. That's when that racism get real crazy. So again, we need to make sure that we're protected from any of these environments. And what we're saying is that we're not waiting for people to stop being racist. We're going to come up with ways that we can protect ourselves.
So did you have was there a moment in your life that maybe said, you know what, this has to stop? Or what was it, something that you personally experienced, or was it stuff that you saw on TV that made you, or people that you heard about? What made you say, enough is enough? This is, I'm gonna do something about this, and I'm gonna take it a step further with starting a actual app.
No, I think it's a journey. I think what did it for me was going to a historically Black college. I think that's what
Uh-huh.
put me on the path. Like really becoming aware, like listening to my first Minister Farrakhan tape back in like 1987. You know what I'm saying? Like being in an environment with other amazing Black folks, and that wasn't weird. And realizing how big Blackness is. Like it's not monolithic. Like, especially go to a private Black school, like a Tuskegee or Howard, you got people from all over the world. So I think what inspired me to engage in solutions that impact Black people was that, the love for our people. Like when you meet and see how amazing our people are, it's like, yo, it's intoxicating. You just want to be around that energy all the time. So even when I graduated, I stayed in DC and I got a job, and I went to grad school, got a business, bought a property right there on Georgia Avenue. Like, you know, I love some Black folks. So whatever it takes to do whatever it is, I'm committed. I got a Black life, Black wife, Black everything, all Black everything, Black shirt on, you know what I'm saying? So for me, it's a passion. I don't want to see my people suffer. So if I can use my skills to do something to impact that and make it better, then I want to spread the love. You know what I'm saying? I want to do that. So that's what it is. It's been a passion of mine.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. Have you had any success stories of people that have used your app, found
Well,
themselves in a situation that they didn't know how to maneuver in it, and because they had, the I Love Black People app, they were able to be successful?
so we've got success stories, but we don't launch until September 30th. So right now we're
Okay.
just building the app. So right now we're building and people are recommending businesses. But what I will say the success story is now is that there's Black people all over the world that are looking for other Black folks that are interested in protecting, preserving, and elevating Blackness. And So often it's just people in like chat groups philosophizing about XYZ to actually be a part of something that's a tech-driven movement that like coming up with a solution. So many people have been like so appreciative to just be able to be a part of something like this. Like we literally have like WhatsApp groups, over 30 WhatsApp groups with 3,000 people, and every day they're engaged in things to help us build this out. And literally that environment or that association, like there's no like international NAACP. So that for Black folks to be able to come together around I Love Black people all over the world is a rare opportunity that they get to do that.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty cool. So right now you started this in 2015 and it's getting to the point now where you're able to launch it. How have you seen the response, I guess, from 2015 until now when, when a lot of people have had a chance to really have to confront, like you mentioned, the George Floyd situations and Ahmaud Arbery, with COVID coming in, there's been a lot of unrest. Have you seen a rise in
Yeah,
popularity?
yeah, yeah, definitely. You know, at first it felt like Noah building the ark in the middle of nowhere. People are like, why are you building a boat? There's no water. So in some ways, it was, our first part of our journey, this was part of our pivot. So when they call it pivot in the startup world, like it's like you start your podcast off talking about one thing. You might have started it, but then you pivot to something else. We're like in a pivot. Like, so we've been around since 2015, but our pivot's been around since 2019.
Got it.
So for us, 2020, we didn't know that everybody was going to be on this. Like we were building something. Like let me just say, at first, people were giving us a hard time because we said I Love Black People was a global Black survival guide. There were so many Black folks who were post-racial talking about, oh, we don't need to just survive. I'm thriving. I don't even look at it like surviving. Man, they put that foot on that knee on that neck of George Floyd. Black folks got real about this. When you start seeing COVID-19 and Black folks first was lied to and said, no, it don't hurt us. And then next thing you know, they saying we're the ones that gonna get it. Like in reality, a lot of Black folks have woken up to the reality that was already there. And I'd say it's not everybody. Like I'd say there was 10% of the population of Black folks in the world that were very aware of racial injustice, like in the front of their mind. I think the number has gone from 10% to 30%. It still ain't half. It still
Wow.
ain't almost half. Like people still are like, living in bubbles in so many ways. But I think now the number of people who are at least conscious of racial injustice is probably triple. And that is helpful because those are the people that are actively seeking tools to help them address the issues that are caused by white supremacist ideology by helping them protect themselves and their family from, racist and xenophobic behavior.
Man.
So yeah, this has
So
been a big time. Yeah.
so you kind of mentioned that when you first started it, people kind of like, why you doing this? And sometimes there's this tendency for people in our culture to, well, I got mine, you know what I mean? Racism don't exist, or hey, I don't want no smoke. You know what I mean? I'm
Right.
comfortable type of thing. I mean, how much of that I mean, well, what do you think about when you hear people talk like that?
Well, every generation has had it. Like, everybody wasn't protesting in the 60s. Everybody wasn't riding with Harriet Tubman when she was running. Like, we just got to keep it 100. You know what I'm saying? There was Black folks selling Black folks in slavery. Like, this population, we've always had some folks that weren't going to be a part of the active agitation for change or, for a better life for our people. But in spite of those folks, we've been able to do some amazing things in spite of that. So my focus, I'm 51 years old right now. I'm clear that everybody ain't gonna be down with you. That's cool. All I need is the ones that are down with me. It's just like when I was dating. It wasn't. I didn't need to date everybody. I just needed to date the ones that wanted to date me. I don't need yours. I need mine. So for me, I look at it just like that. Like when it comes down to movements or business or activities, I literally wear I love black people everywhere I go. And some people are down and some people ain't. The folks who aren't down, I didn't want to. I'm cool. I don't want to talk to folks who ain't down with loving black folks.
So is this
See,
app? I
that
mean,
saves me a
if I go
lot.
on this app, would I see white folks and other non-blacks on this app?
Yeah, yeah. So this app has black friendly and black owned businesses. So we want the best of the best black businesses, and we want businesses that are black friendly. So let me say another way. Like I gave the analogy, you could be in Copenhagen and you get sick. There may not be a black doctor, but there's a Mongolian woman doctor that black folks go to. So for us, it's not just about being black. You got to be about protecting black people, because there are some black folks, poverty pimps out there. There's people who don't respect the culture and they just do anything with it and for the name. So for us, it's about finding people who really want to see black folks do well and treat us with the dignity and respect that we deserve.
What led you to Howard? You started at Tuskegee, right? Is that right?
Yep.
Started at Tuskegee. You transferred to Howard, and then you become a Kappa. Was that at Howard?
No, I was a Kappa before I'm a transfer bro. So I actually was a Kappa before I got to Howard.
What was that like when you
And
transferring? When you pledge at one chapter, and then you come to because what chapter is Tuskegee?
Gamma Epsilon, GE Lighthouse. Well, so
Okay,
that's
so
an even
you
longer story. So originally, I'm from St. Louis, and originally, I pledged while I was in St. Louis at a city chapter called Big Money Bots and Beta New. I literally went from Tuskegee back to St. Louis, and then from St. Louis back to Tuskegee, and then from out. So I literally have been a part of 3 undergraduate chapters in my life. It took me 9 years to get a 4-year degree. So I had an extended remix tour of undergraduate
wait. It
life
took you. So how long were you at Howard?
from 94 to 96. So what had happened was I got kicked out of school at Tuskegee. That's why I was making a funny face. I got kicked out of school, which was tragic. I was graduating that summer. I got kicked out
Kicked
in the
out.
spring of
What'd you get kicked out for?
93. They said it was what they had said was conspiracy to incite a riot. I was student government president, SGA president, like a USIM president, and we took over the administration building when the board of trustees were there. And at the time, Edward Lewis from Essence Magazine was on the board. Craig Winthrop, the CEO of PepsiCo at the time. The civil rights U.S. attorney, Mary Berry. So we took over the administration building. Then one of the security guards got pushed somehow, and they said we attacked them. And then they brought the police in, and then the trustees tried to leave, and we surrounded their vans and laid on the
Whoa,
ground and
this
ripped
is a
it up.
lot. This is a
It was
lot that's
like a
going
real
on.
problematic. Yeah,
Why would you take
it
over
was
the A
a lot.
building? Why would you want to do something like that?
Bro, I
What's
was out of
going
my
on that
mind.
makes you want to
I
take
was
over
out
the
of my mind.
administration?
I was out of my mind, brother. I was crazy. What the hell was I was graduating that summer? What the hell was I thinking? Man, I tell you what happened. What had happened was, and this is a crazy thing. You'll get some underclassmen saying how bad things were, and they'd be like, why didn't y'all do something about it? What, bruh, I'm in my last semester, like almost done. I had like a PE class and like a math class, some silly stuff, right? And we had a sister like get raped right off campus. We had some problems with the library. The books was all bad, old, and the dormitories were problematic. Typical. Some of the issues you find at mostly HBCUs. And basically, we said enough is enough. We did a little petition. We had like 14 demands. They didn't listen to them. Doing registration, early part of that semester, like validation, we had a like 1 minute protest. Everybody sat on the ground in registration. You know, you stand in line. Everybody sat down for like at least a good minute and a half. And the administration thought we was taking over then. But we just sat down for a minute and a half and everybody stood back up just to let these mugs know we serious about these problems. And it was raising tuition. It was like a whole bunch of stuff. And then, make a long story short, bro, in order to end the protesting, they waited. They were really slick about it. They didn't kick us out of school right away. They basically arrested some students. So we kind of kept protesting, but we weren't in the building anymore, and classes kind of resumed. But we would like do things at noontime and stuff like that. They waited till like a week before finals. The reasons I remember it, because they used to have this thing called the Freaknik. This is 93. So the weekend before Freaknik, they came to my class, security told me to pack my stuff, and they perp walked me out of class and had me take my stuff out of the dorm, and I had to be out of the off campus by 24 hours.
Wow. And if that happened today,
So
you would never get accepted into Howard.
Oh,
So how did you get into
so
Howard? How did you finesse that? That was
bro, that was a finesse. Let me say. So Howard, when they kick you out of school, bro, they freeze your transcripts. So what had happened was I applied to Howard for grad school in the fall. So I had taken the GMAT, I did everything I was supposed to do to go into grad school. So I was just waiting on my stuff. And I think I had to turn in something. I don't know what it was, but I was just there. But let me tell you how God is real. A girl who stayed in an apartment complex that I stayed in before I became student government president. At Tuskegee, if you're student government president, you gotta live on campus. So I had lived off the yard, but then when I became student government president, I moved back on the yard. But this sister that stayed in the same apartment complex that I had lived in, her daddy was the dean of the School of Engineering at Howard University. Bro, you can't pray that prayer. Like, let me just tell you, most Black colleges don't even have an engineering program. And if they got an engineering program, they don't have no ADOS, they don't have no descendants of slaves on the damn deans. They normally got like a foreign cat. Literally, the dean's daughter of the only school I could transfer to, because they had my transcript. I'm talking about, I'm Baptist, Jesus Christ, my Lord and Savior, in spite of all the wrong I do. Bro, that was the only school I could go to. Her daddy was the president, and she was cool with me. And he turned out to be a Kappa too.
wow.
And he was a noob. What? So, and this is before cell phones and all that. So she gave me her dad's number. I called him that evening or whatever evening we talked. And I had forgot. She said, I told you my dad was dead. He was in Ebony magazine. I guess Ebony had top like 100 people in the world, whatever. I called him up, told him what happened. He said, well, look, just have your application reconsidered for undergrad. I said, what about me getting kicked out? Do I need to write a letter? He said, oh, no. Don't write a separate letter for that. He said, maybe you put it in your essay that you had to write or whatever. But I had them reconsider my transcripts, my application for undergrad, bro. And I got accepted. He took care of it. Matter of fact, they gave me money. Like, I got more money to go to Howard than I got from Ski.
Are you still rebellious, I should say? Are you still like trying to stick it
I
to the man, or did you learn something like, okay, I'm gonna chill out, let me get my degree?
No. I tried to chill out at Howard. Howard was so good to me. I mean, while we were at Howard, we ran some of the first ANC commissioners. Like, we did a lot in that city. And I've always had a problem with authority. My dad was in the military, good guy, but I just had a problem with authority. So I got fired out of a couple jobs, and then my last gig was at the U.S. Patent Office. And, you know, I got tired of the plantation. I dropped out. Like, I even had a problem with grad school. I remember my job was paying for grad school, and I was late to class, and the professor was like, if you late to class, don't come in again. I said, what? I told that dude, it don't matter if I'm late. You better be here on time. Now, you know that didn't go over well. I said, look, as long as I pay this tuition on time, that's the only thing you need to worry about being on time. My money, me being in your class at all. You don't worry about that part of it. As long as you get your dough, bruh, that went over like a bag of boo-boo, bruh. It was all bad. So I ended up failing out of grad school, man. And then I started my own business, and the rest is history.
So, but when you get to Howard, man, so you already a Kappa. With the brothers on the yard, were they accepting of you?
Man, you know what it is? I think it's the single letter chapter stuff where a lot of cats hate. And Howard had been off the yard. Z had been off the yard a lot of times. So you would hear people talk crazy, but them brothers treated me amazing. Yeah, they treated me, man. I didn't have to worry about no books. I didn't have to worry about no ladies or drinks. I mean, it was the best time. You guys treated me so good. It was amazing. I mean, really, like, the brothers on the yard made my life so easy. There's no way I could repay them. I'm not Z, but I give all the love. I was in a vulnerable situation, getting kicked out of school like that. You know what I'm saying? I'm trying to get my mind right. Them brothers took me in and gave me an amazing lifestyle. Period. Full stop.
Good stuff. But when you're at Howard, you do stuff, man. You were involved in the Million Man March, right?
Oh yeah. We helped mobilize the Million Man March. We marched from. We actually sisters came. I was in Slow, and the sisters knocked on the door the night before the march. We went with security and figured out a proper path or like route to the mall. Brother Sean Barney was Houston president, and mine, Nick Eames, who's a member of the Nation of Islam, and some other brothers were really instrumental in bringing everything together. And we marched basically like a college youth contingent from Howard University down to the polls. So Howard was front and center in the march. Yeah, absolutely, it was amazing. But yeah, definitely. I mean, Howard, just
So
just a place where
how was
there's
that
so
experience
many things.
being involved in the march? Because we see. I remember when that happened. I was like in 8th grade or 6th grade or something. I mean, was it? What was that experience like for you, being able to participate in something like that?
Well, people didn't even know it was gonna work. Like, that's the thing that people don't even. They act like everybody knew it was gonna work, but black people weren't. Most of the people ain't. You know what I'm saying? It was one of those things. At first, a lot of these black organizations were skeptical. Even the Kappas. I remember we had our national convention that summer, and we was trying to get the national organization to do something, and they didn't want no parts of it. People still afraid, of being affiliated with the nation until everything was green light go. And then all of them were trying to wear they, Kappa this and do all that. The Sigmas though, and I always give respect to the Sigmas. The Sigmas opened up their national headquarters for the organizing of the Million Man March. So the Sigmas headquarters is in DC, and they literally allowed the nation to organize out of their offices. So I always, give, hats off to the Sigmas for that.
So in your experience, I mean, do you you hear a lot of people say like, black people are very divided. Do you feel like that's a black thing, or do you think that it's like that with other races too?
Now, I think black folks are probably some of the most unified people in the world. Like, black
Uh-huh.
people, we like connect to each other no matter what. Like, we'll give a nod. We'll do, like, black people, I don't care where you are in the world. Like, when you watch TV and you see a black person do something dumb, you feel a certain way, even though you don't know that black person. There's something supernatural about our connection. But a European, if he sees a white person on TV doing something and they don't know him, they don't care. Black folks are
Hmm.
super sensitive about what happens with other black folks, even when they don't know them. So when you start talking about collectiveness and how we engage each other, we are very communal in our behavior. So I think black folks are probably, no matter where you're from, black folks are more collective oriented. We're not like off in the forest or in a cave somewhere.
Hmm. Interesting. Interesting. Because you hear a lot of those sayings, but I'm glad to hear that it, in your experience, it hasn't been like that. So talk to me about, so post Howard. I know you said that you had a hard time with authority, whether it was graduate school or working for someone, and you refer to it as a plantation. You think that working, you know, for someone else, or I guess a corporation, would you liken that to slavery?
I would like an institution where you really don't have any control. Somebody's telling you what to pick, when to pick it, how to pick it. It's like plantation. Now, slavery, black folks are sensitive about that. But I'll say like a plantation. Again, there's nothing about it that you control. It's not yours. And they're going to tell you when to get up, when to go to sleep, how to do it, when not to do it. And life's too short, bro, to give somebody 5 days out of a 7-day week, 8 hours, 9 hours out of 24-hour day. Like, cool on 65 until I die. I'm taking the best part of this life, the best hours, the best days, the best weeks. This is mine. And if I decide to give you some, that's on my terms, not yours.
I guess when you had that mindset, was entrepreneurship always something you aspired to, or were you like a accidental type of entrepreneur?
Now, I always wanted to do my own thing. I mean, that's a part of just everything, like even running for student government president. Like, I always wanted to take control of my own destiny and not have somebody else dictate it.
Hmm.
So yeah, that was day for day, no parole.
One of the things I saw you did, I mean, that I read about, you purchased a crack house across the street from Howard. Was that right?
Yeah, that's where my first dry cleaners. It was a crack house, and then we uh, renovated the top. We stayed in the top, and then rented out the basement for the. Well, not rented out. We used the basement for the dry cleaners. Yeah.
So you renovate the basement. Oh, so it was just the basement. It wasn't the entire place.
No, no. Lived upstairs. It's 3 stories. We had a basement level. We dug out the basement. It was a window. We dug it out, made it a door. So that was the cleaners, and then the
Wow.
top 2 floors is where I lived.
And you grew that to 4 locations, right?
Yeah.
So you grew it. So talk to me about the
Rockville,
struggle
2
of
on Georgia Avenue.
talk to me about the struggle of entrepreneurship, because I know you openly state that you went bankrupt.
Yeah, yeah. 2003, bro. Yeah, so what happens, you can have friends that support you and they be
Hmm.
wrong, and you can be haters that hate on you and they can be right. Like, I shouldn't have been in the dry cleaning business. It sucked. But my friends were happy that I was doing my own thing. So they would like egg me on, do it. And then I had folks who was haters who was like, dude, you didn't have to go to college to clean dirty clothes. Like, really? Like, what you do? So it was really a tricky situation in the fact that I definitely knew that I wasn't built to work for someone else. I just picked the wrong area. And I had a godmother who had in dry cleaning Ace, and she worked for me. She was really the brains. Donna Sanders, super awesome sister, and was able to grow, but the margins were so horrible. And like I said, they had came up with new business models like dry clean depots, and I had the Howard University band contract, the Howard University security contract. I had
Oh,
Catholic
nice.
University security contract. I had the Embassy Suites downtown, their guest clothes. I had the Rockville Marriott, Gaithersburg Marriott. When the Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Bailey Circus would come to town, I did some of their stuff, their costumes. What else? You
So
know
this
what?
business it
We
has some
yeah.
potential. I mean, I know you talked about the slim margins, but it was a business that had the potential to do well?
No, just no margins in it. It's a race to the bottom. So people don't keep a dry cleaners because they love them. They always are looking for somebody to give them a cheaper deal. So every time you're doing a contract with somebody, there's always an option where they can give you a notice in 30 days and go to somebody cheaper. And like I told you, in many ways, the Koreans have a real strong market where they can drop their prices and undercut your business. So, you can try to keep having these good relationships, but not they, but it's a very dog eat dog market where the margins are just, really aren't that good.
How long were you in that business with the dry cleaning?
Cleaning, 99 to 2005. I went bankrupt in 2003, and then it took me about 2 years to wrap that up. And then I actually left the dry cleaning business and worked on a campaign for a friend of mine and frat brother who was running for mayor. And I ran his field campaign, a guy named Adrian Fenty. And from there, my fortunes changed. He won. I started like business consulting and got all these deals, just because of how much influence and connections I had in the city. And what was so great about it is one thing having connections, is another thing actually knowing how to run a business. And so it actually elevated my whole game, and I was able to take the lessons I learned from failing out of grad school as well as failing at the dry cleaning business. I was able to take that to another level and actually run, consult, and make money in ways that other people didn't have the school of hard knocks to actually, prepare them for.
So in a way, that dry cleaners going under kind of really helped you out a lot
Now, I
in
probably had a
terms of
lot of stuff, but
in
it's a
terms
lot
of
of
mentally.
psychological. Now, mentally, I'm still crazy. Like, I'll just start crying for no reason. Like, I bought a business and building across the street from Howard University. This thing, bro. So I go bankrupt right across the street from the school I went to. Like, bro, it's humiliating as hell.
Yeah, I could
But
imagine.
you're right. What doesn't kill you will make you stronger. And I definitely agree that that's the thing that happened from that.
So what was that like? I mean, I guess when you purchase a building like that, it has to be a buzz. Like, oh man, you know, um,
Yeah, I
Sinclair is
graduated.
killing it. He bought a building across the street, so there's
Well,
that
not
type of
not it,
pressure.
it wasn't that hot then. So I graduated in '96, bought the building in '98. People were like, "Why would you buy a building on Georgia Avenue?" It was like Howard, DC got hot, but up until then, people would live in the suburbs. Like if you graduated from Howard, you weren't gonna live by Howard. Like that almost meant like you didn't win. Like
So I would imagine, man. Just imagine if
you
you. So what does
as
a
soon as you
building
get
like that cost?
Howard, back then it was only like $82,000.
Wow. So you
Yeah,
bought a building for 82,000.
82,000.
That same building is probably worth what? 1,820,000.
Yeah, it's easy, probably 4 or 5, half a million, 600 million. I mean
Wow.
600,000. Half a million, 600,000.
So how were you able to bounce back from basically going bankrupt to now you're working with the mayor?
I Well, you know what it is, and I tell people, man, don't. I'm not gonna say it's not good to try to be successful, but don't think money is success. The thing that saved me when I went bankrupt was my relationship. It was people who respected and cared about me.
Uh-huh.
So it wasn't for my relation. Just like when I got kicked out of school. If it wasn't for that sister respecting me and sharing, hey, by the way, my dad is the dean, like I would have never made it. So what I think a lot of people miss in this paper chase and this money game is the money's not the plug. What makes Howard or Tuskegee, what makes these things special is the people that you meet. And because of those people caring enough about me, they helped me through some of the hardest times I've ever had in my life. It had nothing to do with money though. because I had no money. When I got kicked out of school, I had no money. When I got, evicted and went bankrupt, I had no money. But I had plenty of friends that were willing to help me, man. So I tell people, business deals come and go, but good relationships, are special, respected.
Man, so well, that says a lot about the decisions that you were making, man. I mean, being a stand-up dude in a time of adversity for a lot of people is hard. Sometimes that really reveals true character, man, when you gotta go through something.
Yeah, I think it's underrated just being a good dude. You know what I'm saying? But that's like I was never the coolest dude, the richest dude, the livest dude, but I was a good dude. I'm somebody
Hmm.
I wouldn't mess with somebody's old lady like that necessarily. I wouldn't mess with nobody's money. Like I was not that guy
You said like that
who
necessarily.
well, it might be some dude at some other school somewhere far away. Like, that ain't my vibe. I don't know that guy. He
Oh
was at
man, you
Howard. He wasn't at
you
Howard. He was,
you still a
that guy
Kappa,
back
huh?
home. No, I'm just saying,
You
that
still
dude
a
back
Kappa,
home.
huh?
Them dudes back home, he was probably doing his thing.
No, I got you. I got you. I definitely understand that. So, I mean, so you go through a lot, man. I mean, you go from entrepreneurship to now you're doing the business consulting, which is still entrepreneurship, but it's a relationship business
Right.
more so than anything. But at the same time, you are heavily involved in politics, man, and you kind of rub people the wrong way in some instances. Can you talk about some of those things?
Rub
He like,
people the
which one?
wrong way. Rub people the wrong. Bro, I got kicked out of college. So me rubbing people the wrong way. That's a probably a. It's probably a long line of rub wrong. But what I would say is that when you're in positions of power and you have access to power, you're gonna have people who don't like that. Rubbed the wrong way. Yeah. So I think the biggest, politically, it started. I was an ANC commissioner in DC. So this is like,
That was elected position.
yeah, I was elected 3 times. 3 times. I think I was like 3 times. 2 times. I want to say two, maybe two. Yeah, 2 times. I lost my third time, so maybe 2 times. 2 times. Might be three. But the big
You didn't
thing
work
is
with
that,
Marion Barry, did you?
yeah, we love Marion Barry. We brought him back. We brought him black. Marion Barry. Mayor for life, baby. Take that, take that. And he got set up. But the big deal that happened with the rubbing the wrong way was gentrification. So when I got to Howard, it still was really black in '94. Yeah, I stayed in Sutton off the yard. So as gentrification came, you had people moving in who were literally trying to push black folks out. They would call the police on black folks when they was on their porch. They would call the health inspector if someone's grandmama lived in the building and they were trying to get it. Like there was a lots of things going on that uh, were ways of pushing folks out. And Howard had a bad track record with that. Like a lot of people don't realize, like, why does the metro for Howard, why is it like 3 blocks away? Like it's almost like why didn't you just go up the hill? Like it doesn't make. Well, that's because Howard did not purposely. The original metro was going to be on the yard. Howard said we do not want people to be able to come up on the yard, so that's why the metro is down the street. So there's always been a weird relationship, unfortunately, with Howard and the local black community. And in some ways, the opportunity for gentrification was increased by some of those lack of relationships. And a lot of those buildings that probably should have been bought by Howard grads, alum, were not. And a lot of these, now you in the neighborhoods where originally students could live at a reasonable rate around campus, now they're very, very expensive. So a lot of the rubbing the wrong way was, again, not wanting to see black people disenfranchised in the community. And there were people, even black folks, making money off black folks being disenfranchised. And, that's one thing you'll see in our history when we were talking about being unified or together. We're unified, but there'll be people who would use what they call divide and rule. They'll figure out enough of the folks, they could sell some folks out in order to advance an agenda that undermines the community. So as you see the changes around Howard, where it's less and less Black folks, a lot of that we were in the middle of fighting to stop that from happening, and we lost. And anytime you lose, you're gonna rub some people the wrong way too. It's a hard game right here.
Man, so what is it like to be in politics in DC? In that time, because it's just not Chocolate City. I mean, it's also the nation's capital. I want to say at that time, who
Yeah,
was
I
in
think
office? Was it
at
Clinton?
first, yeah, Clinton was in office, then Bush. Yeah, Clinton, then Bush, and I'd say, it's one of those things where I think politics sucks. Like after going through so many levels of it, I realized that there's no real political solution to our problems. We're going to have to solve them ourselves. And I think that's fair. And so I don't really push people into politics anymore. I'm voting for Kamala Harris. She's a Howard alum. And I know it's the right thing to do. But electoral politics in general, I think it's a game, it's a trick. It's not real for us. But I think you still should participate. If you're going to pay tax dollars to this system, you should definitely vote. Now, if you want to go hard and say, F the system, don't pay taxes, don't vote, don't do nothing. But don't pay taxes and then talk about how you're not going to be like voting. That's kind of ignorant to me.
True story, man. True story. So, okay, so you're in politics, man. You rub some people the wrong way. Um, you kind of transition into I know we're skipping some stuff here, but Bitcoin. When did you get started with Bitcoin?
Say about 2012, 2012.
So 2012. That's kind of early in the game of
Yeah, the white
all
paper
of that.
came out in 2009, 10. So
So
I
were you
got
able to
into it.
cash out on any of this stuff?
I got in early, so I did good, and then I got hacked. I got hacked for like about 50 Bitcoin. It was kind of tragic. So it
50
wasn't all my
Bitcoin.
Bitcoin. Yeah.
Wow.
But it wasn't all my Bitcoin, but it was a lot of it. So I think the big thing that made a difference in my life with all these things is getting kicked out of college. Like once you're about to graduate and then they take it away from you, your ability to let stuff go is just different. Like
What do you
going
mean?
bankrupt, you lose everything. But I had already lost all my like credit hours almost. You know what I'm saying? So there's a poem about like building your life and then it all falling down and then having to build it back up with worn out tools. Like I think in a way, life, and my wife talks about it, life is full of good things and bad things. It's gonna be both. So to get so consumed by the good or consumed by the bad is probably not the way. You should be able to keep moving regardless if it's good or bad. So like I said, even getting hacked for Bitcoin, being in a position where you're saying, you know what, I need to learn from that. I'm gonna deal with that. It sucks, but you keep moving. And you never let one of those moments be the thing that defines all of who you are. Like, somebody could always take the three worst things that happened to you and try to say that's who you are. That's not who you are. If they take the three good things you did, that's really not who you are. Like in reality, we're a mix of your body of work is full of a whole bunch of things. Keep moving, man. Whatever you do, don't stop. Good or bad, keep it moving. So be it rubbing people the wrong way or bankruptcy or getting kicked out of school or being hacked, whatever you do, don't stop. Keep moving. Keep moving.
So I mean, as sad as some of this stuff has been, and I know it's probably kept you up at night sometimes. I mean, you showed a fair amount of resilience. I mean, I'm an entrepreneur myself. I've been in business for 8 years. I own an insurance company here, and I have I did have a promotions company that I had for 12 years, but we haven't done anything since February because of COVID. And I have real estate. I mean, it takes a lot to keep going and to keep pivoting, in your path. I mean, because sometimes I tell myself, I'm like, all right, I'm gonna do this for 2 more years or 1 more year, and I'm gonna just go get a job because I just want to check, I just want to go somewhere for 9 to 5, come home on guaranteed 2 weeks, 4 week vacation. But I remember when I first started working out of Howard, I remember being like, 2 weeks, that's all the vacation you get is 2 weeks. I remember that. But when you're an entrepreneur, you like, I wish I could get 2 weeks off. At least that's been my experience. Where does that resilience
You know what?
come from with you, man?
I, mean, I think I got three nightmares. I got one nightmare that I didn't finish Howard University. Like I didn't stop having that nightmare probably until last year. Like I graduated in '96. It might have been early this year. I think it might have been right before COVID or something. There was something that happened where in that nightmare, I actually graduated. Like for the first time, that nightmare always goes where I'm thinking about to graduate, and then they come up with this class I didn't
Wait, so
finish,
you
like
so you
some more
never finished
book.
that? You never finished at Howard?
No, I did, but I'm saying one
Oh,
of my nightmares. One of
okay,
my
okay.
nightmares. No, I went to grad school. I failed out of grad school, so I finished undergrad. But my point is, that was one of my nightmares. Another nightmare is being back in the dry cleaner. And for some reason, I'm always like, I'm just stuck in this damn dry cleaner. And my third nightmare is working a 9 to 5 job. And in the nightmare, I'm always on my lunch break, and I can never make it back from my lunch break on time. Like this nightmare, like literally. I'm over here just a meeting or something. Like I'm always in this dream trying to get back to my damn desk or office before my lunch is over, and I never make it back. So for me, I've been signing my checks on the front since 1999. I promise you, like it's been a lot, but bruh, every day is my day. Like people always be talking about Saturday or Sunday, bruh. All these damn days are mine. Everyone with a Y, bruh. So I made money and I've lost money, but having that level of control, and it's real, like you said, having to pay the bills, trying to make payroll. I remember the dry cleaning got so bad, I stopped making payroll on Friday and said, look, I'll pay y'all on Monday just so I can get that money from the weekend. So I mean, I used to love the summer, but when you're in the dry cleaning business, that's when it's the slowest. So I started hating the summers. I hated Fridays for being payday. Like there's a lot of things you go through,
It's funny
but
when you're a business owner, man. The payroll seems like it's every week. you
right,
know.
almost every day. So, but I say you stay with it and you find those things that you're good. Just as much as I've been bankrupt, I've made millions of dollars. I mean, it's one of those things, man. Like right now, I'm literally me and a business partner. We have a villa in the Dominican Republic. So I've been sheltered in place at our villa, and literally we had no shows because of the corona, but was able to spend the time with my wife sheltered in place in the Dominican Republic for 6 months. Bro, I could have never done that if I worked for the goddamn man. Like to be free, it's priceless, bro. I'll take whatever comes with that. To be free, I'll pay it.
So
But to
what's
be
what's your
somebody,
definition of
nah.
what's your definition of freedom?
Being able to wake up in the morning and do what I want to do, and not have somebody tell me I better be back in an hour, or else, or else what? Fuck you. That's what I said. When you're your own man, excuse the curse. I've lost clients, but I can get another one. But when you work for somebody, they're everything. And if they fire you, you go to zero again. But when you lose a client, you get another client. If this doesn't work, you do this. But you're managing your life. It's yours. Every day of that week is yours, not just the weekend. That right there, life is too short, bro. I don't know when yours or mine gonna end, but if mine ends after this call, I want you to tell him he had a blast. Tell him I had a stone cold blast. It was off the chain. Tell him because it has been. This thing's been amazing. But if I had to get up in the morning and cut this call short because I had to go to work, work for some idiot who hate me, man, that thing would suck.
No, I hear you. I hear you. That's real. That's real. I mean, but I guess for me, entrepreneurship it got tough, and it's different when you go through stuff when you don't have kids versus when you do have kids. You know what I
I
mean?
can imagine. Yeah, I didn't. I
That's
still
when
have
it for me.
kids.
That's when it kind
I
of
got
really
married
got tough.
for 4 years. I got married 4 years ago. Our anniversary is this August 20th. My wife is 20 years younger than me. I promise you, I I take my hat off folks who are balancing the family piece with entrepreneurship, bro. I think that
Yeah,
shit got to be hard. Like I'm
yeah,
still, it's just me and my wife, and bro, just think about the responsibilities, man, that y'all got. I didn't, and then having the right spouse. Like my wife, her dad, may he rest in peace, was a barber. So my wife grew up with an entrepreneurial mindset. So I do some import export of motorcycles in the Dominican Republic, and my wife, like my general manager, helping make sure all that went well, you know. And so for me, it's been you still got to keep figuring it out. Whatever you're doing, bro, just keep figuring it out. Don't be mad about that. Just know that's okay. Failure is a part of success. The biggest place that I think more entrepreneurs should go, they should go to Silicon Valley, because in Silicon Valley, these people build hyper growth businesses like no other place in the world has. And even when I used to say I went bankrupt, I was ashamed. I didn't tell my parents. I'm a grown ass man. Probably till 5 years after I went bankrupt that I went bankrupt. But you go to Silicon Valley, I was talking about going bankrupt. Dude told me, hell, I've been bankrupt 5 times. But let me tell you about that third one. That was the sweet one. That's when I did this, and that. I was like, what? Yeah, humbly, humbly. So I'm just
wow.
saying, there's people like this entrepreneurial game. There's places where they do it so professionally. It's in the culture. Like failure is nothing. Like in DC and in many places in the world, failure is everything. But you deal with like in an area like Silicon Valley, out of 10 startups, 9 of them fail. Now, where else can you be with 9 out of 10 as your record and people still don't call you a loser? Like in Silicon Valley, you can lose 8 times, you still ain't a loser because 9 out of 10 fail.
That's a good point. They
So
say even in
don't,
even in investing with stocks, they say, man, even if you get two of your investments do right, you're gonna win.
right. So don't let, we have a very unfortunate view of this thing. You're going to make mistakes. Try to just get to them as fast as you can. You might approach something wrong. I was in the wrong business. I shouldn't have been in dry cleaning.
Welcome to the Go Fish Village podcast. As a Chinese proverb says, give a man a fish and you feed him for a day. Teach a man to fish and you feed him for a lifetime. At Go Fish, our goal is to teach individuals just like you how to build wealth through real estate. When it comes to business, man, I know you said you made a ton of money, lost a ton. What's the most money you made and the most you've lost?
I've lost like maybe 1.5 million easily. And the most I've made is maybe a few low millions.
So is that 1.5? Is that in the course of like a day, a year?
Probably hours.
Man. So what do you think about when folks like Trump, man, who've been able to navigate the legal system and file bankrupt several times, not pay people that he owes, and still come out on top? I mean, what do you think about that?
I think he's the typical white corporate male. I don't think there's anything really special about him. I think there's a lot of Europeans that have made money the way he's made it. They're just elevating him because he's president. But this I've met so many no good bastards in business, right? I don't even, that's the norm. No good bastards, people who, try to, double cross people. There's a lot of that. So, I think what we were tricked in is that he was literally on TV every Thursday. Hell, I was at Howard. Cats wanted to be an apprentice. I mean, folks were like, literally, I was in grad school, wanted to be on The Apprentice. So they promoted this clown dick, and people bought into the hype. But in reality, bro, there's a lot of no good bastards out there in business, you know, and people like still celebrate them. Like people act like all these Mark Zuckerbergs and all these other clowns, like all these cats got some cruddy stuff you've seen, but they get to smooth it out and make it seem it was, you know, when they do their memoirs, they make it all seem like it was their idea and they were all amazing. Nah, I don't catch some cruddy dudes, but they got publicists, they control the media. Jeff Bezos controls the Washington Post. You think they're gonna write something bad about him now? When he got that much ink he can put out there? So, you know, the reason why you hear so many bad stories about Black entrepreneurs is somebody's attacking us on purpose. They want to undermine us. They want to take our confidence away. They want you to be like, I don't know. Because once they do that, it's over. They don't have to deal with you anymore. So whenever you think about entrepreneurship, man, just suck it up, bro. But maybe change. I'm not saying suck it up like endure till the end. Life is supposed to be brutal. I'm just saying take some of that as a signal that maybe there's another way or another. Like I bust my ass as a dry cleaner, and then I still wasn't there. Like I literally busted my ass. That was a sign to say, hey, this ain't your shit. This ain't your thing. Listen. Try to listen to what God is telling you. He will send you signs. Don't be so arrogant. Don't listen to the world. Try to be quiet and listen. Like, see signs. Like, I was shown signs that this wasn't right, but my ego wouldn't let me listen. I had to be right. No, don't do that. Listen. Try to like figure, just like having a podcast. Like we're thinking about doing like a little podcast, not a video one. One is like audio, but you know, I don't, you know, the time and the managing all that, you know, but we do want to make sure we're connecting with our members and things like that. So you never know. Maybe we'll do it, see how it works. If it doesn't go well, we'll do something else. But learn how to let go. Like the thing you said about 2 years, like I had a sister say that to me. I was dating. She said, when will this be a failure? Like, when would you say this dry cleaner didn't work? Like, she's like, what would have to happen for you to be like, this ain't it? I had never thought of that. I always thought about like what I wanted to get to, but I never thought of like what would have to happen for me to say, you know what, dirty clothes ain't my thing. Bruh, you got to be thinking about that. Like, at what point, if you do this and this don't happen, like even with this business, you know, we pivoted because the things that we were doing weren't adding up. When we started looking at this whole racism, xenophobia thing, we got so many people interested in what we were doing, bro. And then we just got some more funding last month. So I'm just trying to say, like, you're going to get signs of the right path, just like you're going to get signs that you're not. Now, the question is, are you going to have the humility and the honesty to listen and act on it? And that's a tough thing. The routines and habits.
That's tough. That's tough. So what, I mean, I was talking to a friend of mine and he was saying that entrepreneurship, that people are making mistakes, in particular Black people are making mistakes when they say, man, you need to be an entrepreneur, you need to be an entrepreneur, without really going into detail about what it takes to be an entrepreneur. It's kind of like saying, like, chase this thing of entrepreneurship, it's going to solve all your problems. But in reality, you got to be built for it. It ain't just a thing that you could, like, everybody just can't do that. You know, do you think it's a dangerous message to enforce or to push entrepreneurship on people without really telling them the downside? Because like you said, 9 out of 10 business people fail. I was reading something like 9 out of 10 businesses fail in the first year. And out of those that go on and make it for 5 years, like 9 out of 10 of those fail within the next 5 years. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's tough. You're talking to somebody who's been an entrepreneur for so long. Like I told you, I've been signing my checks in the front since '99. This is what I would say. Working for somebody has its own set of problems. I think it's about what the terms of engagement. Like I have a house, like I said, in the Dominican Republic. I have an apartment and a farm in Zimbabwe, and I have houses in the States. You know, people say, "Oh, you're gonna quit America?" Well, I don't have to live in America to deal with America. I can be anywhere. America's just an airplane away. I just think the way that you deal with this capitalist system can be very problematic if you give one other person total control over what's going to happen in your life. I'd rather have control of that. I think the control you have when you work for somebody is too limited. And you see it in athletes, you see it in so many levels. America wasn't built for people who rent or work for other people. It's just not. The ceiling's too low and the floor is too slippery. So, you know, I've had too many friends who lost their job or been passed over. Who I remember on Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, I would start getting the heebie-jeebies. Like just the thought of going back into work on Monday was like messed my whole Sunday evening up. Just the fact that I had to get back in that mindset, dealing with that no good sucker at the job, was heavy, man. So being bankrupt was tough. Trying to make bills. And I think it would have been definitely much more difficult if I had a wife and children to take care of. But I think the life I would have had working for somebody else would have been so horrible. Like it wouldn't even been work. I mean, I'd kill somebody else before I kill myself. But I'm literally like the quality of life of working while working for somebody else was horrible. Like, cause they're your boss, and they could be an idiot, bro, disrespectful. They could be anything, and you gotta sit there in your little cubicle. Like, I had a cubicle, I had a little office. Like, all that stuff was some clown jig stuff, bro. A bunch of big circus, bro. And I'm not like, I'm running around with a big red nose. I'm not gonna be your clown for not long. And I'm out.
So do you think entrepreneurship is a thing that everybody should go after, or in particular black folks?
I think it's the way to go in some way, shape, or fashion. It could be a sole proprietorship. You could be a partner. You could be a part of a team. But I think having your own stuff will always be a better way to go about it. Now, I just hired a great executive assistant, and she's got a degree. I've known her for years. She just came back in the job market. Her children are older, and she enjoys, working for other people. But she's working for a startup. So she's still getting a piece of that entrepreneur kind of flexible, like, let's go kill everything we eat type world. So it might be a role that you play on a small play, but I think that she has more say so in how this company is going to run than she working for some big, racist or big behemoth of an organization.
Dang.
So I think there's roles you can play, and it doesn't have to always be you're the boss. You could be in an entrepreneurial move with some other folks, and just like a band, you might be the guitarist. You ain't the front man. You ain't rapping, but you dude playing the bass. I think it's better to play the bass. Yeah.
Who you say some of your bigger influences are?
Probably my mama and my daddy.
That's interesting because earlier you talked about your dad being real strict on you.
Oh yeah, strict. When I got kicked out of school, I had a concept of like protest. So he was like, he gave me some of the best advice. He said, whatever you do, be willing to accept the consequences. Like, I don't understand this stuff, like student government president, taking over. My dad was in the military during Vietnam. He was in the war. So
wow.
Nah. But his son, he's saying, look, whatever you do, be willing to accept the consequence of your action. And for that, I respect it forever. So my dad taught me the work ethic, the mentality of being that type of just like go hard, relentlessness. And my mom taught me like kindness, being considerate thoughtful, you know, all that type of stuff. You know, she took us to Sunday school, my spiritual side. My mom is very, like, you know, pivotal in that space. So, like, both of them, like, between my mom and dad, they still married, man. I've been blessed to have my parents with me, man. And they're amazing.
That's dope. So with your app, eliminating, you're fighting xenophobia and racism. Um, have you had to, I know that the Dominican is, it's people down there that look black or, you know, darker than me, darker than you. Have you, been there for 6 months straight, or been in that environment? Have you faced any of those things down there?
Yeah. So, like I said, I've been an activist so long now. What we do, we adopted like a school for displaced Haitian children. We even did a Kwanzaa program one year just to teach the kids about Kwanzaa, a made-up holiday from African Americans. And over the COVID, the first 2 months of COVID, we gave out food for about 30 families once a week. But I tell you, white supremacist ideology is global, and the United States is probably the biggest purveyor of it. So when you see any country in the Caribbean doing something negative, you better believe that the United States has co-signed that. You can't treat Europeans bad, or the United States to do something about it. So when you see issues of colorism and people, talking about dark or you're this or that, these categories were created by white supremacist ideology. There's no such thing as Latino. If somebody's Dominican, they're Dominican. Guatemalan, they're Guatemalan. It's the United States that came up with this thing called Latino in order to categorize and to control them. This is white supremacist ideology. Everybody is non-white. What the hell is white? What does that mean? There's no real color called white. There's no real color called black. This race is a fiction, bro. It's made up. Racism is real though, and there's a real consequence of racism, bro. So for me, when I look at Dominican Republic, United States, I understand why these systems are the way they are, because these countries are client states of the United States. They are not sovereign countries. They are told what to do and what not to do. And that's what happens, divide and rule. They come up with ways to categorize people to keep us divided. So if you go to Haiti, there's light, almost white Haitians. They get treated better than the dark-skinned Haitian. But again,
So
these are all.
is racism ever going to be gone, or is that just here to stay?
It's going to be gone. It's not sustainable. You can look at this world now. I had people talk about, is COVID-19 man-made or is it natural? Well, I tell them, look, either way, if it's man-made or if it's natural, it's a reflection of a very toxic world. It's a toxic world where some dudes would actually put something like that together, or it's a toxic world where the world would finally create something like this. So what I say is that white supremacist ideology is unsustainable. It has to keep killing and destroying. Like,
what about capitalism?
I think capitalism sucks. It's horrible. We should come up with something better. Yeah. Just look around the world, all the capitalist places, it sucks. Yeah. So yeah, we got to come up with something better and replace it. And this is a perfect time. COVID-19, anytime there's a crisis, is a great time to redo. There's no need to go back to the normal. The normal sucked. But I got a problem with authority, so
So if for the layman, what is Bitcoin and blockchain? What is that?
Well, it's just like data. So blockchain is really a block of data connected together. So when you take a picture with your camera phone, you're a little young, you don't remember the days of going to CVS and having to develop them. But now you got data, you look at the picture you don't like, and you take another one. You're on vacation, you take pictures. Back in the day when I was young, you go on vacation, you didn't know if you had vacation pictures until you got all the way home and developed them. You didn't know, either you have vacation pictures or you have a mess, okay? So my point is, That's all data now. That stuff that used to be paper, a picture, is now data. The same thing now, they came up with a way to create encrypted data that you can't copy. It can't be counterfeited. And once they started exchanging that data for value, they call it pizza day. When someone said, I'm gonna give you 10,000 Bitcoins for 2 pizzas, that's how you set the market. The market now has been set. This is what someone would give you for this amount of Bitcoin. So through consensus, people agree on what a market is. So like gold has no value. It's just a rock. It's people who determine that it's by consensus that gold is worth something. I don't know if you know this, but you can have all the gold in the world. That's not going to keep you from getting COVID-19 though. So it's really just a rock. At the end of the day, or end of the world, all that rock ain't gonna help you. The person with the most goats is gonna probably be better off than the person with the most gold, because you can't even eat gold. So again, this is all a psychological fiction that's created that we all consent to. Same thing happens with Bitcoin. People agree on the value and are willing to pay or give you in exchange for that something. So it's encrypted data, and there are blocks of data connected together that they call the blockchain of data.
I'm curious to know, what was Howard like when you were there?
All the way live. And when it's live, like when they changed the drinking age back to 21 or to 21, it changed a lot. Because the punch out, you used to have to serve alcohol. So you could literally be on the yard on Friday with a pitcher, bro.
Wow.
Come on, man.
Wow.
I can imagine.
Was you on the yard? Was you shimmying on the yard?
No, they didn't have shimmies tonight. We twirl canes. I don't do all that soft stuff. I'm not against any groups of doing anything, but I don't shimmy.
Okay.
None of that. Sachet, shimmy, none of that.
All the way live. That's good to know. So what advice do you have for somebody that's coming into Howard right now?
Man, treat your...
Or the 18-year-old Sinclair. What are you telling this guy?
Know when to say when and just say no. I'd say, look, those friends that you meet, cherish them. Always be a good dude. Value the generation that you're in. Always be respectful to that first and foremost. Your first break in life might come from an old cat like me, but most of the other breaks in your life don't come from your peers. So respect them. Treat them with the dignity they deserve. Whatever you do with the ladies, try to make sure that you don't do it to all of them. You save some that you respect and don't do nothing ridiculous. And maybe you might find a long-lasting relationship. Maybe you won't.
So much stuff to unpack, man, and discuss. And it's like you said, a lot of stuff is rooted in white supremacy. And until we get rid of that, we got to keep making noise. So in terms of legacy, man, what is the legacy of Sinclair Skinner when it's all said and done?
He loves his people. He wore it on his chest. He wore it on his sleeve. He loved black people. That's what they're gonna say. And I'm gonna be cool with that. They don't have to say nothing else. They'll say he's an engineer. They might not talk about my beautiful wife or whatever else I did. But they're gonna talk about he loves some black people. Whatever you say about that dude, he loves some black folks. And I'm good on that. That's cool.
I love it, man. I love it. Well, hey, man, you've been a great guest on the show. I really appreciate you coming on. I'm looking forward to this lunch. Thank you for joining the HU Movemaker podcast, where we highlight folks that have contributed to the Howard legacy at the highest levels. To hear more interviews or purchase merchandise, please visit www.humovemakers.com.